Hey there. I'm going to do a ramble. I've got some ideas of what I want to talk about. It's going to be kind of all over the place, although I guess they're kind of connected in a way. I guess I'll start off by saying the Switch 2 was announced. I don't own a Switch. All of my siblings have a Switch, but I don't. It's cool. They have cool games. Mario Kart is a classic. It's going to be a launch title. That's an interesting thing. When like the Xbox Series X and the PS5 came out, any game that was coming out for those consoles was pretty much also available on the previous gen, so the Xbox One and the PS4. But it seems like Nintendo is taking a very scorched earth approach with this console release, where they're just releasing a bunch of games that will only be available on the Switch 2 to really incentivize people to get it. I don't know. It just seems a little different than how Microsoft and Sony operate. Where even still today, those consoles came out in 2020. So we're 5 years deep, 4.5, I guess, because they came out Q3 of 2020. But anyway, even now, 4.5, 5 years later, I'm pretty sure most games that come out for those consoles also come out for the previous gen, like Xbox One and stuff, which is honestly a little frustrating. I'm not trying to be an asshole and be like, if you don't have the newest console, you don't deserve to play these games. But there is something to be said about the fact that when games continue to be made for both console generations, how much can you expect for them to have improved or evolved or, innovated, right? Because if it still runs on the old hardware, how much different can it really be from the games that came out during that generation, right? So that's always been my kind of pet peeve when it comes to the console generations. I do wish that they would kind of move past the last gen. It's been 4 years. I would say it's there's been plenty of time. There's been plenty of overlap. I think it's time to move on. I think we are just starting to finally get to the point where most games are next gen only. And I say next gen, but really it's just current gen. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Nintendo is taking a very different approach, like I said, which seems like there's going to be a lot of games that are Switch 2 only rather than being cross-compatible. So if you want to continue to play new Nintendo games, it seems like you pretty much have to get a Switch 2. The thing I wanted to talk about specifically with the Switch 2 is that I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about the pricing, specifically for the games. The console, I guess, is $450, maybe $500. I'm not exactly sure. Although we did just get, sorry, there was a really loud car that just went by. We did just get a bunch of tariffs on, was it Wednesday? Yeah. I think it was Wednesday evening. So who knows how that's going to affect the prices of things. We're already seeing increases in prices to things. With regards to the Switch 2 specifically, I don't know if they had already factored that in. If they knew ahead of time or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. I see it kind of both ways regarding the prices of the games specifically. So the games are going to be $80, it seems, for the digital only copies. And if you want the physical cartridge, it looks like it's going to be $90, which is steep. Don't get me wrong, that is steep. There is something to be said about the fact that Nintendo is a very reputable developer, right? Especially their flagship in-house titles, right? Not every game that Nintendo publishes is going to be, cream of the crop, but any of their main titles, you can bet on them being really well polished, really well considered, right? So if there was any like game company that I'd be willing to pay that amount to play their games, Nintendo would be one of few that I would be willing to do that for. But again, I do see the complaints. Like, I see the logic in it where it's like, things are already getting expensive, right? The cost of living is higher than it's ever been. Wages are stagnating more than they ever have. People have less money to just like do hobbies and things, and a lot more of their money is being spent on survival, right? Which is a bit sad. So it's sad to see that, you know, Nintendo is like just adding to the flame, right, with their price increases. But at the same time, I think gamers as a community have become really comfortable with the $60 game. I mean, $60 game doesn't really exist anymore. It seems like most games as of like this newest generation, so like since like 2020, are around like $70. Some people complained. I mean, maybe a lot of people complained, I don't know, but it seems like people got used to that pretty quickly. $70 was the new norm after $60 having been the norm for like, I don't even know, like 30 years or something. But it's been that way for a long time, right? Inflation is a real thing. $60 today is a lot less than $60 back in like 2005. You know, when I was growing up and I had to save up for a game, you know, getting $60, scrounging $60 together was challenging for like a 10-year-old. It was a lot of money. If you actually look back and do like an inflation calculator, $60 comes out to like $90 to $100, depending on exactly what year you go back to. Or did I say 60? I meant 90. I don't know. I'm not sure if I said that right. $60 back in like the mid 2000s is worth like $90 to $100 today. So back when those games were priced at $60 back then, it was the equivalent of games being priced today around $90 to $100. So I mean, realistically, a Nintendo game costing $80 to $90 is pretty much just a return to form in terms of like inflation and stuff. So, I mean, I get it from that viewpoint, you know. I mean, fuck corporations, right? I mean, I'm not going to shill for a corporation and be like, yeah, they deserve it. But, I mean, I do have to acknowledge the fact that because of inflation, games have been becoming cheaper and cheaper over time, right? I mean, everything's been becoming cheaper and cheaper. At least anything that has stayed the same market value. Not everything has. A lot of things have just straight up gotten more expensive, and so obviously those things are not the same value. But still, there is also something to be said about the fact that, you know, people expect a lot more out of video games nowadays than they did. Box. People are expecting a lot more out of video games today than they did back in like the mid 2000s, you know. The expectations for games have gotten substantially higher. It just takes longer. It takes more people to produce video games nowadays at the level of quality that people expect. And I'm not saying that that's like not warranted or anything, but it's just something you have to acknowledge when you're talking about the price of video games, you know. The fact that video games have remained similarly priced over the past few decades means that when a company works really hard to produce one now, they're getting a lot less out of it than they would have been, you know, earlier on. It's just something to consider. Again, I don't really like... I don't think it's pathetic of people to be like, this is just outrageously expensive. Because, like I said, I mean, life is getting expensive and it's becoming harder to make money. There's a huge wealth inequality, disparity, and yeah, that's not cool. So I'll never advocate for anything that like pushes that further, But I do think that it's not just so black and white where it's like, oh, just keep games at $60 forever, 100 years down the line when hyperinflation's a thing and $60 is the equivalent of like 3 cents, it's like, you're going to charge $70 for a game at that point? It's like, they had to raise the price eventually. Now, I guess there is something to also be said about the fact that, like I said, $60 was the norm for a long time, and then just pretty recently it became $70. And now I guess Nintendo's trying to push this concept of it being $80 to $90. It does seem a little fast, right? I'm totally fine with people making that point where it's like, it just got raised to 70. Let's have it be 70 for a while before we start going up to like 80 or 90. So yeah, I could agree with that. It wasn't 70 for very long. And I mean, to be fair, I suppose it's not 80 to 90 yet. Those games that Nintendo are marketing at that price aren't even out yet. But if Nintendo starts doing it and people start paying that amount, it'll only be a matter of time before all the other companies start doing the same thing. I mean, if they know that they can get $10 to $20 more per sale, why the hell wouldn't they do that, I don't know. Only time will tell what's really going to happen. Who knows? Maybe Nintendo will retract, because I have been seeing a lot of pushback, so maybe they'll decide it's not worth it. The bad publicity isn't worth it, so they'll just drop the price down to $70 or something. Who knows? That would be a pretty big win for consumers. I don't see that happening, but who knows? I don't really know Nintendo as a company, like their business practices. I guess the only thing I know about Nintendo is that they're really aggressive with like copyright stuff, which a lot of people rightfully like complain about. That's not to say that I actually think that copyright is a bad thing. I think copyright is a very good thing, but it can be abused like anything else. There's a lot of people out there that think that copyright is like this evil thing that only benefits like huge corporations. I completely disagree. And I think anyone that thinks that copyright is like genuinely bad has just never created anything of their own that they need copyrighted, right? But that's just my opinion on that. But anyway, that's enough about the Switch 2. I probably won't be getting one. It looks interesting. I have some there's some weird things I could say about some of the games. I've like Mario Kart, for instance. I watched a video. They released like gameplay of like the first Grand Prix or whatever. And they were showing off some of the new mechanics, one of which is like you can ride on like rails, but I mean, it's a racing game. Like the whole point of the game is to like control your car. And it seems like when you go on the rail, the game just plays itself because it's just, you're locked in and it's just going forward. So I do think that's weird. And there's a few other weird things about it, like the whole like drive between each track, but then you only do one lap on each subsequent track after the first race. Like that just seems weird. I don't know. There's some weird things about Mario Kart, and there's some weird things about the Switch console itself, like how the Joy-Cons attach with magnets. I'm just curious about how like solid that'll actually be, and if they're like really strong magnets, like when you slam the controller. Because, I mean, really strong magnets are really strong. If you've ever watched any of those videos where they take, like, two, like, giant rare earth magnets and, like, smash them together and they just self-obliterate, because the closer they get, the more powerful the attraction becomes, and it's just, like, insane. So if, like, the magnets are truly strong enough to keep the controllers on there, like, very sturdily, then are they not like doing damage every time you like clip them in and out of the thing? You know, that's just some questions I have. I don't know. Only time will tell with that sort of thing. I also think I was watching the what do they call it? The Nintendo recap, the Nintendo Direct. That's what it is. When they were announcing the Switch 2, and they showed off like this like demo game that like talks about the console itself and all of like the cool features that they put into it and how it works and everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like, you know, Astro Playroom for the PS4 or whatever, where it's just like this little thing that gets bundled with the console so that you have something to do immediately with it while you wait for like another game to download or something, you know. And it just kind of teaches you about the console, and it's just kind of a fun little thing to spend like 20 minutes in before you download an actual game, and you just, you know, delete that off of the game, off of the Switch forever. And then like they briefly mentioned, like, I forget exactly their wording, but it's a paid title. It's not bundled. It's not free. It doesn't come with the Switch. You have to pay for it like a regular game. I don't know how much it's going to be. It might not be like a full price title, but I just thought that was hilarious. It was like, really? This thing? Well, because especially not just because it's like not worthy of being a paid title. Calling it a demo is potentially unfair because I've not even played it. So who knows like how in depth it goes and like how much work was put into it. To say that it's not worthy of payment is unfair at this point. But it is certainly not the type of game that you're going to be playing, you know, endlessly like Zelda or something, right? But the real funny part of it, in my opinion, was that they were presenting it as this thing to like get you familiar with the console. So it seemed like they were gearing up for it being like something that was just intrinsic. It was just bundled with the console. It was pre-installed on every device. Like you didn't have, it was just there. Because that would make sense. It's like there's a lot of differences with this version of the Switch from the last one, so they want to get people familiar. It's already on the console, so it's the first thing you see when you like boot it up. You go into that, and then you can learn all the differences. And it's just like intuitively that makes sense, you know. If they're trying to like truly get people to play this game, this demo game, to like learn about all of the unique attributes of this new console, to inform the consumer, right? It just made sense. So for it to be a paid title that most people are just never going to buy, it's like, why do they even bother making this? If it's not like truly a tutorial type thing, you know, it's like, it's its own game, but it's just worthless. Like, I don't know. It's just, that was amusing. I cracked up watching that, but, yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the tariffs. Now, again, I know I've said this countless times. I say this pretty much every time I bring up politics on this channel, which is to say that, like, I'm not trying to bum you guys out. It's just important stuff to me. I like to talk about it. And I think it's important to talk about it. If this isn't your cup of tea, then you can click off. You can go watch something else. That's fine. But holy shit, I am getting fucked over here. I think I've talked before about how my main source of income is trading stock. And the past 2 days, Thursday and today's Friday, I'm recording this after hours, but Jesus Christ, I'm getting fucked over here. You know, for all the talk about how Biden was bad for the economy, I did nothing but make money under his presidency. I mean, the markets were just skyrocketing. And look, to be, you know, whether or not you want to talk about whether or not that's sustainable, yeah, okay, probably not. Whatever. It was going to stagnate eventually. It was going to, you know, that bubble was going to burst. It couldn't just keep going up forever. I get that. And a lot of people are talking about how, like, this move by Trump is, you know, it's going to hurt at first, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. God, I hope so. I fucking hope so. Because Jesus Christ, everything is red. And it's like every you get a glimpse of hope because he'll bring up tariffs. So what I'm speaking of is in reference to on Wednesday of this week. He just announced huge tariffs, biggest announcement of tariffs. It's like 20% on like everything across the board for like every country. I don't know. That's not exactly right, but it's a lot. There's a lot of tariffs happening that just like went into effect. But even going back to like when he first came into presidency, and he would announce like small tariffs on like particular goods for particular countries, and boom, market's red. And then like there's no talk about tariffs, and like the market's kind of green and things are looking kind of up, and it's like, okay, we're recuperating, we're not quite fully back yet, but we're getting there. And then boom, he mentions tariffs again and everything's red, and you're even deeper. And it's like every single time you think that you're gonna get ahead, he brings up tariffs one more time. It just bombs everything into oblivion. Thursday was rough, and today was pretty much the same, if not even a bit worse, for me personally, and the stocks that I own. It's rough. It's real rough. Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously in a down market, there's still ways to make money. But yeah, that ain't happening for me. It was just so simple. It was so simple before. The market goes up, everybody makes money, everybody's happy. All right? The billionaires make more money than me, but at least the number is green. As long as the number's green, I can be happy about it, right? But now the number's not green. And the billionaires are probably still making money because, insider trading and all that shit. They say it's illegal, but who knows what's actually going on. You see all these politicians that have personal portfolios that are up like 500% over over their candidacy or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. And every time, a bill's going to get passed, that like Congress people aren't allowed to, trade stocks and stuff like that. It's like, oh, that gets swept under the rug. I wonder what's going on there. Yeah, that's crazy. If you have a political position, you should not be allowed to trade, you shouldn't be allowed to do that. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. It's also weird that like the president isn't allowed to do it, but Congress people are, even though they have just as much, if not even more, influence over stocks and things like that, because they have influence over legislation, and legislation affects stocks. So, I mean, like, what? Yeah, it's just fucked up. It's not a good time. It's been rough. It's been rough. These past couple of days have been rough. The past couple of months have been rough. Like I said, you say what you will, but under Biden, that shit was going up. That shit was going up hard. It was easy. I mean, it was like impossible to lose money under Biden. All you had to do was buy stock, and there was like a 90% chance that it was going to go up. And even if it didn't go up like the moment you bought it, you just hold on to it for like a week, and then you'd be up like 5% or something. It's like, it was insane. So easy. I'm not saying that it takes talent or skill or anything. It doesn't. I mean, arguably, stocks in general don't take any amount of like skill. You can analyze shit as much as you want, but it's all random at the end of the day. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. If they did, you would just be a quadrillionaire because you would just always be making money. So, it doesn't take skill, but it's a lot more fun when you're making money than when you're losing it. So yeah, that's a bummer. I don't think people truly understand how tariffs work. I don't know. To be fair, I didn't understand how tariffs work until all of this talk of tariffs, and then I like looked it up because, I wanted to be informed, and then I was like, oh, that's how they work. Why are we doing this? I get it. He's trying to bring industry back to America, so he's putting tariffs on shit so that companies are incentivized to just make shit in America. But I don't know. I just don't really see that happening. And if it does end up happening, it's just like, is that really that much better? You know, like, I don't know. Only time will tell. Look, like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong that, like, he's just messing things up for the sake of messing them up. I want to be wrong that he's, like, trying to, you know, further Russian interests and stuff like that. I would love to be wrong about all that sort of stuff. But it really is hard to hope that that's the truth, just because of what's happening. But anyway, we'll see what happens. The future is very uncertain. But anyway, I think that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you're going to buy a Switch 2 and if you're going to buy the demo game that teaches you about the Switch 2. I mean, it looked kind of interesting. I mean, it's, like I said, it's Nintendo. It's well polished. But if that shit's going to be like $70, no one is going to buy that thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later.